Hey, what is up everyone? Kolst here, and we are back for the last review of the Shadows in the Badlands mini set. I don't remember what it's called, but right now we have the final review for Shaman, Paladin, and I believe there's some warrior mixed in here as well, but it's mostly Shaman and Paladin. So with that, let's jump into the first two cards here, which are insanely broken because these are actually not cards, these are Excavate rewards. There are two new Excavate classes in this set, and it is these two, Shaman and Paladin. So these are accessible only by excavating 4 times, similar to the other classes. So the first one we have here is the Azurite Murloc, the Shaman Treasure. 4 mana, 5/5 elemental Murloc with Battle Cry. Transform all your other minions into ones that cost 3 more, keeping the original costs. So, you know, there's that one card, Stars Align in Priest, which is like one of Priest's strongest cards. It's 3 mana, do nothing except it only does this to your hand. This transforms all your minions. That means hand, deck, and battlefield. If you have a lot of things on board, generally evolving by 3 is going to be really good. And generally speaking, I mean, this is an interesting design because, like, in Constructed, you're like, well, there's certain cards I probably don't want to transform, but, you know. And it's a much higher cost you're paying because these are cards you chose to put in your deck. In Arena, it's not really the same thing, right? You only have at most one other legendary. A lot of your cards are things you're happy to transform. So, like, I mean, this is like, as far as Arena is concerned, it's funny because it might be less in Constructed for that reason. But in Arena, I mean, this is like the most unbelievably powerful thing you could ever imagine, basically, right? Going to be just an unbelievable amount of power. So that's a very, very strong Excavate treasure. And then next up, we have the Paladin one, the Azurite Dragon, 4 mana, 5/5 elemental dragon, Battle Cry. Give all other minions in your hand, deck, and battlefield +3/+3. So it's actually very similar in its effect in a way to the Azurite Murloc. Instead of evolving your board, it just buffs all of it, and similarly, instead of doing it to your, deck and battlefield as well, it also just buffs everything. So it's probably the opposite in Constructed, again, for the reason I'm talking about, but like in Arena, you'd probably rather actually have the transform, I think, because it's probably gonna be a similar amount of stats overall, but you're gonna get like just random legendaries and powerful things. In Constructed, you'd probably rather just buff your existing cards, because you can also build specifically around that, right? Both of them are going to be very, very strong treasures, though, for sure. The one thing is that just compared to some of the other ones, the dragon specifically is going to be less good as a comeback mechanic, right? Because it doesn't do much immediately if you don't have the board. So that's the one thing that probably makes it like slightly weaker for that reason. But overall, I mean, yeah, it's very strong. While we're talking about excavates as well, before we get into what the actual excavates are, because that's going to be important to determine how easy these are to get to. But we'll talk first about the legendary Sir Finley. Sir Finley is finally back to complete the League of Explorers in Standard, but also Arena right now, I think. Are they all in? Maybe. Hopefully they are. I don't know. But 3 mana, 2/3 Murloc, Battle Cry. If you've excavated it twice, transform all enemy minions into 1/1 Murloc. So basically a one-sided mass polymorph. That seems pretty cool and all. However, I do think this isn't going to be the greatest thing to have in Arena for a couple reasons. I mean, the first obvious reason is you're just not going to be guaranteed to get the excavates, so that hurts. But also, this is it's a weird situational reactive card. I mean, it's a very good reactive card, but it's still just a reactive card. And when you have like one legendary, you'd kind of rather not have that. Like, how often do you really need to like transform a lot of stuff? Sometimes if you're against like a priest or someone else who reborns a containment unit, okay, but like it's just a little bit situational. It's not going to be that great in every game. So it's still definitely a very good card, but I think that's going to limit it from being like, really what you'd consider like a top tier legendary. It's going to be like good, but not exactly what you're looking for. Next up, let's talk about the actual excavate cards. Then a couple of them are here. First one is Digging Straight Down. 4 mana nature spell for Shaman. Deal 8 damage to a minion, excavate a treasure. I mean, it doesn't work with Divine Shield, I guess, but like pretty much there's not much that's bigger than 8, right? So this is pretty much an Assassinate. Plus you also get an Excavate. And Excavate's worth like at least a mana. It might even be worth like 2 mana. So like, I mean, this is just like a completely overpowered card. It's just very, very strong. And it's an Excavate, so you want it. So I mean, this is going to be virtually an auto pick. Just straight up, because you also have a really good Excavate treasure to look for. So yeah, you're literally gonna take this like every time, unless it's like pick 28 and you don't have any yet, then and it's up against hacks or something, then you might not. But otherwise, like, you're gonna take it literally every time. Next up, we have Needle Rock Totem, 2 mana 0/2 totem in Shaman and Warrior. Interestingly, at the end of your turn, draw 2 armor and gain 2 armor and draw a card. There's probably not gonna be a whole lot of totem synergy right now, right? But it's fine, right? I mean, it's a cycle. It's not very it really, I mean, it seems kind of moderate. Like, you'd rather have, I would think you'd rather have the whatever it's called. I'm not good with card names today, but like the guy that actually has like 1 attack is probably better than this most of the time, I would think, in both Shaman and Warrior. Obviously healing is nice, but and armor is slightly nicer in Warrior, but you're probably not getting that much off of this. And if you're playing it early, you're passing your turn. If you're doing this later, it's probably just worse than the shield block anyway. So yeah, I mean, it seems kind of mediocre. It's something you'll take sometimes if it's up against 2 bad cards, but it just doesn't seem all that enticing in general. It still could be good to coin it out and get a couple draws, but that's a lot of tempo loss to do that, so it might not even be advisable. Overall, it's like something you might take it occasionally, but I don't think it's gonna be a priority. And then next up, we have the Excavate for both Shaman and Paladin. I believe both those classes are going to have 2 Excavates, but this is the one that's combined between the 2. And this one is a 3 mana common spell. Give a minion Wind Fury and Divine Shield. Excavate a treasure. So compared to the other one, I mean, compared to the Shaman specific one, I mean, obviously this one's a lot more situational. You really need to actually have like a rush, or which you have to also have mana to do both of these. It is expensive, and you need to have either a minion on board or rush to really make this work. It's not going to feel good to just randomly put this on something most of the time, right? If you put it on a 2-drop though, I guess it's fine, right? If you just go 2-drop into this, it's reasonable, right? But yeah, I mean, you have to have a board, so that just makes it a little bit more difficult compared to a lot of the other Excavates, which you can just play pretty much whenever you want. But overall, I mean, it's fine, right? Like, give a minion Wind Fury and Divine Shield. I don't know what you would really value that at, but it probably is like, you'd probably value that at like 2 mana or something, maybe 1 to 2 mana. So yeah, I mean, it's still fine. It's an overall decent card, and you'll pick it just because you want Excavate, but it's a little optimistic thinking you'd really get too much. Obviously, sometimes you will just win the game, you'll buff something, or just have a big minion and get Wind Fury, and that's going to be a thing that's going to be terrifying for your opponents. Probably be worth drafting like 1 of just for that reason anyway, kind of like how you had it for Battlemaster, right? So you'd probably want 1 anyway, and you're probably just going to take all of them because it's Excavate again. So overall, that makes it a pretty solid card. And then last up, we have the last couple cards here. I'll talk about the Excavate first on the right, because that is the Paladin specific Excavate. It's Fossilized Kaleidosaur. 4 mana, 3/4, Undead Beast, Battlecry. Gain 2 random bonus effects. Excavate a treasure. They really, these class specific Excavates, they're really making good, because yeah, I mean, that's just really good, right? I mean, random bonus effects, that could be like basically anything, right? They're not always going to be helpful, but you can get like a Poison Divine Shield, which could be really good. If you just get like Wind Fury, it could be scary, but like that might be one of the ones that's often not as useful. But there's like a lot of stuff. You're going to get something pretty good, and because you're excavating, like you don't need that much value out of those effects anyway. Even if you just got a 4 mana 3/4 Excavate, it would be okay, right? It's just it's all upside. Sometimes it is going to be really good because you get something like Poisonous Reborn or Divine Shield, and your opponent just doesn't have the proper answer to deal with that. And but you just don't need it. It's already like fine, right? Occasionally very good, but usually just good. So it's a strong card. The last card we have here over on the left is Aftershocks. Shaman Warrior spell, nature spell. Deal 1 damage to all minions 3 times, costs 2 less if you cast a spell last turn. So just a very solid AoE. It deals with, you know, Divine Shields and Reborns and that kind of stuff pretty well. Overall though, you probably, usually it's not advisable to go for like super late game strategies unless you're really high rolling with Shaman specifically. It just doesn't make all that much sense. So it just seems like a card that doesn't fit Shaman nearly as well for that reason, unless you have one of these high roll walking mountain Shamans. It's just not exactly what you would want. So I think you wouldn't value this very high in Shaman. In Warrior, it's completely the opposite though, because I mean, you even have like potential enraged synergies and stuff, right? Depending on the rotation, probably not right now. But yeah, you're happy to have these kind of mass clears because you'll just take it. And this one could be a really cheap one that you can possibly even get out really early before some of your bigger AoEs activate, or you could just play this at any point when you might have needed to sanitize before, right? But this does the trick, and even if you're paying full, like you'll just be happy to use it that way. So I think in Warrior specifically, this is very, very good. And Shaman, I just don't think I would prioritize it nearly as high though. But with that, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Appreciate everyone hanging out, of course. As always, do I have any more updates? I don't know. I don't know if I do. I've been not streaming in general just as much due to like personal reasons right now. Nothing bad, actually. Definitely not bad at all, but like just things going on. So good timing that I should be coming back more fully right in time for the mini set. So we'll be ready for that. So expect a lot more streams then. But anyway, appreciate everyone hanging out. Hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, comment, all these things. All right. But we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.